She called me crying at 7 in the morning. Her name was Margaret. She wasn't my patient yet. She was my neighbor. She called because she had just found her grocery list in the refrigerator. Not on the counter, not on the fridge door. Inside the refrigerator, tucked between the orange juice and the leftovers from Tuesday. She said, "Sarah, I didn't even know I'd done it. I just stood there staring at it." And then she said the thing that broke my heart. She said, "I've been eating so well. I've been doing everything right." That stopped me cold, because she had been doing everything right, by every standard we're commonly told to follow. Whole grains, blueberries, fish oil, green smoothies. She was the model patient. And yet something was quietly slipping away. That moment changed the direction of my research for the next several years, and what I uncovered, I wish someone had told me sooner. My name is Dr. Sarah Jenkins. I'm an integrative medicine physician based in Austin, Texas. For over 18 years, I've worked specifically with adults navigating cognitive changes, memory, focus, clarity, the feeling that your mind just isn't as sharp as it used to be. In that time, I've worked with more than 2,000 patients who came to me saying some version of the same thing Margaret said. "I'm doing everything right. Why is this happening?" The answer almost always comes back to one thing, not what they were ignoring, what they were following. Here's what nobody is telling you. The brain health advice that's everywhere right now, the advice on morning television and wellness magazines, repeated at every doctor's visit. Some of it is not just ineffective. Some of it is actively working against the very thing you're trying to protect. And the cruelest part? The people following this advice most faithfully are often the ones I see struggling the most. Let me explain what's actually happening inside your brain when you're in your 60s and beyond, because this is where the story gets important. There's a process your brain depends on called synaptic pruning. Think of it like the natural maintenance crew of your mind. It clears out old, damaged connections and makes room for stronger, newer ones. When you're young, this process is incredibly efficient. But starting around your early 60s, it begins to slow. The maintenance crew shows up less often. Things start to accumulate that shouldn't. At the same time, your brain's requirement for a very specific category of nutrients actually increases. Not decreases, increases. The brain under age 40 can compensate for nutritional gaps fairly easily. The brain over 60 cannot. It becomes acutely sensitive to what it receives. It amplifies both the benefits of the right inputs and the damage from the wrong ones. This is why what worked for you at 45 may be quietly harming you at 67. Now let me tell you about the trap, because this is the part that genuinely makes me angry on behalf of my patients. One of the most recommended brain foods, celebrated everywhere, sold in every health food store, praised in headlines you've probably seen, is processed whole grain products, whole grain bread, whole grain crackers, whole grain breakfast cereals. The packaging says brain health. The messaging says smart choice. The reality is something very different. Here's what the research actually shows. Many commercially processed whole grain products trigger a disproportionately high glycemic response in adults over 60. What does that mean in plain language? They spike your blood sugar, fast, high, and hard, and your brain sits right in the middle of that spike. When blood sugar surges repeatedly, it damages something called the blood-brain barrier. Think of this barrier as the security system of your mind. It decides what gets in and what stays out. When it's compromised, inflammatory proteins begin crossing into brain tissue, and inflammation is one of the primary drivers of the cognitive changes that frighten us most. The research from the Journal of Alzheimer's Disease published a finding that most people never see. Adults over 65 who consumed high glycemic diets, even healthy ones, showed measurably accelerated decline in memory consolidation compared to those on low glycemic, whole food diets. We're not talking about junk food. We're talking about the foods that have health claims printed right on the label. There's more. The second trap is something called industrial seed oils, canola oil, soybean oil, corn oil. These are in almost everything. Restaurant food, packaged snacks, salad dressings marketed as heart healthy. They have an extremely high omega-6 to omega-3 ratio. And when that ratio tips too far out of balance, it creates a neuroinflammatory environment that directly impairs the brain's ability to form and retrieve memories. I've had patients come to me who had been diligently cooking with these oils for years, thinking they were doing the right thing, following the guidance they'd been given. And when we shifted their approach, the changes they reported were significant. Before I go further, I want to pause here because I know some of you are watching this and recognizing yourself in what I'm describing. Maybe it's the word retrieval that's getting slower. Maybe it's the names. Maybe it's walking into a room and having absolutely no idea why. If that's you, I want you to stay with me and I want you to leave a comment below right now. Tell me what you're experiencing and make sure you check the pinned comment at the top of the comment section, because I've left something there that I really don't want you to miss. Now, the third trap is perhaps the most surprising, and it's one I have to approach carefully because it goes against something deeply embedded in our cultural understanding of health. Chronic low-grade dehydration. I know, it doesn't sound dramatic, but listen to this. The brain is approximately 75% water. It is the most water-dependent organ in your body, and research shows that a fluid deficit of as little as 1 to 2%, an amount you won't even feel as thirst, can reduce cognitive performance by up to 10%. Attention, working memory, processing speed, all measurably impaired. Here's the trap within the trap. As we age, our thirst sensation diminishes. The body's signal system becomes less reliable. So many of my patients over 60 are walking around in a state of mild chronic dehydration, and they don't feel thirsty. They have no idea, and they're interpreting the cognitive fog that results as something far more frightening than it actually is. The solution is simple, but requires intention. Water, not coffee, not juice, not sparkling water with flavoring. Water, consistently throughout the day before you feel thirsty. This single shift alone has produced changes in my patients that surprised even me. Now I want to tell you about something I discovered after years of investigating exactly what the aging brain needs. Specifically, what nutrients have become nearly impossible to obtain from food alone in adequate concentrations. After working with my patients on diet, lifestyle, sleep, hydration, I kept finding a gap between what the brain needs and what even the best diet can reliably deliver consistently at optimal levels. And I spent a long time looking for something I could actually recommend in good conscience. I don't want you to leave this video without knowing about this. It's called the Brain Song, and I share it with my patients not as a product, but as a discovery. A formula built around the exact mechanisms we've been talking about today, supporting the blood-brain barrier, addressing neuroinflammation, providing the concentrated nutritional support that the aging brain genuinely requires. The link is in my pinned comment. It's the first thing there. Please read it. Let me tell you about Dorothy. She's 67, from Georgia. She came to me convinced she was losing her mind. She'd been following a heart-healthy, grain-based diet for years. We changed her approach. We addressed the inflammation piece, and she started the Brain Song as part of her protocol. 3 months later, she told me, "I called my daughter by the right name on the first try for the first time in I don't know how long." That might sound small. It wasn't. She cried. I cried. Carol is 71, from Arizona. Her biggest fear was becoming a burden on her family. She was already starting to avoid social situations because she was afraid of forgetting things in front of people. Carol followed the nutritional framework I've shared with you today. She added the Brain Song. She told me 6 weeks in, I went to my book club and I actually talked. I contributed. I wasn't just sitting there hoping nobody asked me anything. That's Carol getting her life back. Linda is 68 from Tennessee. She told me she almost didn't come to see me because she thought nothing would help at her age. She thought the window had closed. Linda, I'm glad you came. She's now 3 months into the approach we developed together. She told me last week that she started writing again. She'd stopped years ago because she couldn't hold her thoughts together long enough to put them on the page. She's writing again. And Barbara, 74 from Virginia, she told me the most meaningful thing that anyone has said to me in 18 years of practice. She said, I feel like myself again. I didn't realize how long I'd been pretending. That is why I make these videos. That is why I research. That is why I care so much about getting this information to you. Here is what I need you to do right now. Scroll to the pinned comment at the very top of the comment section. It's the first thing you'll see. Everything I've mentioned today, the brain song, the nutritional framework, the additional resources, it's all there. I put it there because I don't want the algorithm to bury it. I want you to find it. The brain you have right now is worth protecting. It's not too late. It is never too late. And the first step is simply knowing the truth about what's helping and what isn't. I'll see you in the next video.